Hey everybody, this is Ed.
And this is Kara.
And this is your day's dumpster fire.
Where we don't celebrate humanity's successes,
but its most fantastic failures. Its most fantastic failures. You know, one of these days, I got to sit down and re-record that little intro and get it so that when I click on it, there's not like a 37-second wait for it to start.
Yay, editing.
But it'll be one of those things where, like, after 10 years of doing the podcast, I finally get around to it.
Yeah. It's like back burner tasks.
Yeah, because taking the 5 minutes to just bring up the file, shorten it to start when I click on it, and then re-uploading it. Who has that kind of time?
Nobody. I don't.
Yeah, it's like who can ever take the time to do a 5-minute job and save yourself a lot of headache down the road? But
I don't know. I have video games to play and art to make.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and if you just heard, Kara's got art to make. She just finished probably one of the most epic drawings of George Custer.
Yeah, it came out pretty cool.
It's pretty sick. And I encourage everybody to go to thedaysdumpsterfire.com. She's going to be uploading a lot of her artwork to the website. Because it's going to reference a episode of the show. And what was it? That was episodes, let's see here. Yeah, 10, 11, and 12. So, yeah, you're going to see Custer on there. If you want to know what the heck we're talking about, go back to the Days Dumpster Fire episodes 10, 11, and 12. It's a 3-parter. It's a pretty epic show of just one of the worst American defeats in American history. And so yeah, we'll go check that out. We'll follow up with that at the end of the show. But yeah, some of her stuff out there is just spot on to the theme of the show. So I'm kind of curious to see what you're going to come up with. The last episode, which was like morning sickness and Nazis.
Yeah, I haven't thought of that yet. I sketched up a Queen Elizabeth today, though. So
okay. So
I don't know about the morning. Maybe somebody puking in a toilet. I don't know.
Yeah, with like all these Nazis like looming over, like
that sounds like really bad propaganda.
Yeah, no,
I don't know about that.
It sounds more traumatizing than anything.
Yeah, it does.
So I got a question for you, and I probably know the answer because, like, you just kind of go with the flow, and you're very Zen-like. You're very, what is it, Bruce Lee? You're like water.
Yeah, my guy.
You just kind of just move around.
Yeah, just go with it.
Yeah. And so, like, here's the question, and if you in the audience has an idea on what the answer to this is, feel free to send us an email. The Days Dumpster Fire G in the podcast. Like, here we talk a lot about, well, historical dumpster fires, but I kind of want to go in the direction too of incorporating the listener, incorporating the audience, and try to make this story of an epic disaster apply to your lives. And so, like, when you have this happen to you, you have your own trash can fire, you could be like, hey, at least it's not as bad as this. Or I didn't mess up as much as Winston Churchill did. Or I'm still alive versus Custer, who is no longer alive, kind of a thing. So I kind of want to engineer it so that you as the listener can get something from it. So the question is have you ever tried to, like, take on a project or achieve a goal try to accomplish something and you are like, you're gung-ho, like you are fully willing to commit whatever resources you have in your life to achieving this task, only to find out later on that this task was virtually impossible or it was impractical from the beginning. That's good because, you know, when we were talking about this before, you're like, no.
You know, it's funny. I do have something that I just thought about. I'm like, I can't think of anything. Like my mind went blank, but it just popped in my head, and I can tell you right now it is minuscule compared to this.
Yeah, because like we're not going to talk about a dumpster fire where like there's a cat stuck in a tree. Like that wouldn't be very exciting unless it resulted in like half the town burning down. Then it's good content. But
or the city of Chicago.
Like Chicago burning down. Like, yeah, that's another episode. Go check that one out. So what I want to go into is Willem Barentsz. So yeah, I want to talk about Willem. I think it's supposed to be William, but he's Dutch. So we're just going to go with Willem, and I'm just going to American English butcher it.
Perfect.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about this guy, and he's kind of a little known figure unless you are really, really, really involved in Arctic Circle 15th, 16th century exploration. It's like,
that's very niche.
Yeah, if that's your thing, then you will have heard of this guy. If you have chosen to like lead a normal life of happiness and fulfillment, you probably passed over this in your history class and moved on. But
yeah, that's a fair statement.
And this whole story is actually coming to you from one of our audience members, Nathaniel. He's brought this up to me numerous times. Like, hey, you really need to check this out. It's a pretty good story. It's a good story where like everything goes wrong, and this Willem Barentsz guy is trying to like figure out everything to make this whole Northeast Passage thing work, and it just blows up. We got to go back in time to a couple billion years after the Big Bang. So maybe a couple billion years after the formation of the solar system, like 4.7 billion years. And maybe we go back to the 15th century.
Cool.
So
I'm here for it.
The 15th century is the age of exploration, right? All caps. Technology has come to the forefront where now Europeans are able to explore the world. And I'm specifying Europeans because there's a lot of cases in history where there's been other cultures in other parts of the world, like navigating, like the Polynesians navigating thousands of miles of ocean on little boats and colonizing the Pacific.
It is true.
Yeah, it's pretty insane what humanity has done in the past. So the 15th century and the 16th century, technology is getting to the point where now Europeans can start crossing the Atlantic and they can start trading all over the place. So the other big thing that came about was keeping time. You may not think about it, but being able to tell accurate or keeping accurate time is the only way you can sail east and west.
I actually learned that today while I was drawing my Queen Elizabeth drawing.
Yes.
I know that sounds off, but
I know it sounds really weird, but you can go north and south and you can use the North Star, right? The further south you go, the lower the North Star will get to the horizon. And then the further north you go, the higher up the North Star will go. And you can measure that angle and you can figure out kind of where you're at north and south, but east and west, it doesn't work so well. And what it is you got to be able to keep accurate track of time. So like, okay, 10 o'clock, we need to take this recording of where the star is in the sky, right? And then tomorrow night, we've got to take a recording of where the star is in the sky. And that is like your candlelight. That is where you compare each night where this star is at the same exact time. And you factor in some other things like the time of year and all that kind of stuff. But then you can figure out where you're going east and west, because that star, as you travel around the globe, will move ever so slightly depending on the direction that you're going in. So, like, keeping track of time was a massive, massive achievement for navigation. The other thing, too, is maps. And maps were becoming more commonplace. The demand for cartographers was exploding. So let's say you couldn't hack it as an artist somewhere. Well, you could go into cartography and you could really get your name out there as a map maker and make really good money on this.
That's what John White did.
Yeah. Amerigo Vespucci. I know he did a lot with maps. A guy by the name of Diaz. His name is escaping me right now, but he'll come up. Like, hey, whatever you got to do to make a living as a sailor, make maps. And I love maps from this time period because they always have like all these sea monsters all over the map.
Oh yeah, they're so like awesomely decorated.
Yeah, and I think they did that for artwork, but in the ocean, a lot of weird things happen. Like boats sink, and like what sank the boat? We don't know. It's got to be a kraken.
That's fair.
As exploration expanded, consumers, mainly rich white Europeans, they wanted more and more exotic goods. So as they got richer, they wanted more expensive things. Perfect case in point, pepper. Like ground pepper that we use on everything here in America was considered one of the most expensive spices in the world because it only came from the Americas and they could only bring back so much of it.
Cinnamon too, I think.
Yeah, cinnamon was one of them. And then, then there was like, turmeric, getting that from India and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's wild. You never think about it. The stuff that you can go to the grocery store for a few dollars and buy was once relegated only to the ultra rich and wealthy. And these rich people, they would pay people to go out and basically like Uber Eats their ingredients. Mm-hmm. Right? These monarchs, they would pay for ships to go across the world to go pick up some like tomatoes and bring them back.
Yeah, it's just a really long, expensive Uber Eats order.
And you would pay strangers to arrive at your doorstep and bring some fancy animal. So and possibly the biggest market at this time is Asia. And the connection to Asia has been huge because it goes all the way back to basically like the fall of the Roman Empire, like the Golden Age. Even before?
I believe the Romans traded with the Asian people as well.
I thought that was more like India, or am I thinking of like Alexander the Great?
You might be thinking Alexander the Great. I could also be off by a little bit. I'm trying to remember when the Silk Road was established. I might be off.
Okay, yeah, I thought the Silk Road was closer to like the Golden Age of Islam because they were working a lot with Asia. If you find the correct answer, interrupt me, let me know. But yeah, for the longest time, the connection to Asia, especially like China, was huge. And at this time, there's like 4 different ways to get to Asia. And the most commonly used method was on land. Just hitch up a bunch of horses, oxen, humans, wagons, load them up, and then start walking out east. And this was probably the most common one, like whatever beast of burden you could find, you slap some stuff on it that you want to sell to the Asians and start walking this 6,000 to 7,000 miles.
Yay.
What could possibly go wrong in 6,000 to 7,000 miles?
Right.
Especially when you could walk maybe 20 miles a day.
Yeah.
Depending. And that means it would take 300 to 350 days just to get to Asia.
Yep.
So it's like a year to get there, and it would take almost 2 years to make a round trip. So you're like, hey, I want some of this fancy Chinese silk. All right, cool. It'll be a 2-year wait.
Yeah, it'll be a 2-year wait. It's also very expensive because livestock is expensive. And then that's also why traders were, if you see it a lot in movies and stuff, but it is somewhat accurate where townspeople or villages get super excited when the tradesmen come through. That's why they only see them maybe once a year, a couple times a year, depending on what their rotation is, because it takes so long to get back.
Oh, and I imagine too, like when it first started, you'd maybe see like one traveling salesman a year. I do know as like we get into the 1600s, there were so many caravans going back and forth. Like they would set up mini trading spots along the way so that you didn't have to go all the way into China to get silk. You could go half the way in, meet somebody, buy some silk, and then bring it back. You're going to pay more for it because half the transit is knocked off of it. But there was like all these trading posts set up. And for the most part, it was relatively safe because of the Mongols. They were heavily interested in trading with Europeans. But when we start getting into the 15th to 16th centuries, the Mongols are kind of losing their grip on things. And as a result, it was becoming more and more dangerous because of like the Ottoman Turks. They were coming into power. The Venetians controlled the whole Mediterranean area. Like either you had to pay a ton of money to get through there, or you had to fight your way through it and hope you didn't get assaulted on the way or whatever. That was one way. The other way was to hop on a boat and then sail around Africa and then pop out on the other side towards like India and all that kind of stuff. So Bartolomeu Diaz, that was the guy I was referring to earlier, I forgot the first name, was the first to sail around Africa in 1488. And it took him 15 months just to get down there.
Yep.
Like just, yeah, it's crazy. And a lot of it had to do with these ships back then were so janky.
Wild. Oh, also, then, just to interrupt, because you asked me to. Rome did trade with Asia through the Silk Road, through India, and there is some signs of like Roman coins and stuff in China.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a fun fact.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, yep, I was wrong.
That's okay. It's like a weird, obscure thing.
Yeah, no, it's a very weird and obscure thing for me to be wrong about anything. It's
exactly.
So yeah, Vasco da Gama in 1498 was the first to sail around Africa via the Cape of Good Hope, which is an insanely dangerous place to try to sail through. Many dumpster fires could be recorded down there to reach India.
Ironic name.
Yeah, I know that. I think they did that on purpose. Like,
gotta have good humor about it, I guess.
Yeah, it's like Good Hope. Let's hope to God you make it, because
hope for the best.
Yeah, the further down south you go around there, man, it is wild. By the late 1500s, this was the best means to getting into Asia. So that was like what Europe had to work with. However, though, that became kind of dangerous because obviously you got the Cape, but you were also subject to bad weather. You were susceptible to disease because if one person has the flu on the ship, everybody's getting the flu on the ship. And like that can lay out, if not kill, like a good portion of your crew. And then there was also like pirates. Pirates are starting to make their presence known around the world. Then there was the idea of heading out west till you hit Asia. And this is probably the most famous one. Like, you know, Columbus did not set out to prove the world was round. That's a lie. Most people knew that the world was round, unless you were like the most ignorant of ignorant people. And he didn't set out to find the Americas. his mission was to set out to find a quicker way to get to India. And he thought he landed in India because he landed in, it was basically what, like South America?
Yeah.
Was it closer to South America or like the Caribbean?
Yeah, it was around that area.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like Massachusetts.
No.
Like, yeah, it wasn't that far north. The path out west is probably the most famous one because, you know, like Columbus landed in like South America / Central America / the Caribbean. He saw dark-skinned people there and he's like, cool, these look like Indians. We've made it to India. And then very quickly discovered this wasn't India. And, you know, the rest is history. He made it back. And yes, we know all that stuff. So, it worked out well because like, here we are.
Yay.
You know, it's one of those things. It's like, cool, like America formed, and that's an interesting piece of history. But again, if you're sailing out west trying to find a quicker way to get to India, it just wasn't going to work.
That wasn't it.
Other way that you could go was to sail north. So you could walk out east, you could sail down south, you could sail out west, or you could head north. And the idea would be to like leave Norway or Finland or, you know, Britain, whatever coastline had access to the north. And you basically sail through the Arctic Circle and land in northern parts of Asia or Siberia. And this was most famously called the Northeast Passage or the Transpolar Sea Route. The idea was instead of going east and west for a really, really long period of time, what would happen if you just went north? Because it would have to be quicker to change hemispheres instead of going east and west, just to go north, because you're technically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get from one point in the northern hemisphere to another point in the northern hemisphere. Instead of going half the width of the earth to get to the opposite end, why not just go north and see what happens? And a lot of it had to do with the fact that, like, you know, by the time Willem Barentsz came about, like, it was commonly known, like, okay, this is how big Earth is. They're starting to develop an idea of the relationship to continents in between other countries and continents. Like, they were starting to get an idea of what Earth looked like, especially when you factor in that whole American, South American continent. And I mean, obviously they were still way off on a lot of things, but they were kind of coming up with some logical ideas. Like, it's quicker if we just sail north rather than sailing, you know, all the way down south. But what's funny is that if you sailed north, you're going to go by Siberia, you're going to kind of like hit Mongolia, and then you have to go down south and, you know, go past Japan. You have to go around China. You're going to have to go around Korea, Vietnam, and to get to India and whatnot. And that trip was closer to 18,000 miles. Finding the Northeast Passage wasn't going to do you much good because it's impossibly further away than everything else. The advantage is that when you are sailing up to the north, one, you typically have the winds working for you, right? It's the North Pole. Everything is blowy up there. And these sailing ships could just go forever this way, as opposed to like heading down south through Africa. You had to time it with the year, like, where is that Gulf Coast wind? Where is that going? Where's which way is the Atlantic working at this time? And there would be times where you're just sitting in the middle of the ocean for like 2 weeks waiting for a puff of wind.
Well, that's a silver lining.
Yeah. So yeah, it's super far away, but they had no idea at that time.
Yeah.
Like, they were completely oblivious to it. That brings us to Willem Barentsz and his dream. And Willem Barentsz is going to be the hero of this story, I guess.
Our main character?
Yeah, our main character, the one that gets stuck in the dumpster fire, so to speak. Much like when we did Terra Nova, we're talking about explorers here. And these explorers were very competitive, but they were also very respectful towards each other. And Barentsz, even though this was hundreds of years before we are dealing with Antarctica and whatnot, Willem Barentsz was a pretty respected guy. He was born in modern day Netherlands in 1550, died on June 20th, 1597. So he had a good 47-year run, and he's considered like the first or the earliest Arctic explorer in human history. Funny thing is his birth name was Barentsz, which I think that's kind of a funny name.
Yeah, that's funny.
And well, yeah, and he knew that. He knew that it was kind of weird, so he just changed it to Barentsz.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, right. If you had a goofy name,
yeah,
that's just a long signature.
If you've ever seen Meet the Parents, change it from Gaylord to Greg. I understand.
Yes. Yeah, I totally get it too, especially if you have to sign a lot of paperwork.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Nathaniel did show me a signature from a sultan from the Ottoman Empire or whatever. And that was a signature. We were both staring at it like, how? Anyway, that's off topic.
Yeah. So he shortened it to basically translated Barentsz son. So it's Barentzsz.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of like how the Scandinavians would do something very similar. Sigurdsson, that type of thing.
Yep. And so by trade, he was a cartographer or a map maker. And he was a map maker in the height of the age of exploration. And cartographers were in very high demand. He literally put his name on the map when he sailed to Spain and subsequently the Mediterranean Sea to compile an atlas of the region with another guy by the name of Petrus Plancius.
That's a fun name too.
Yes, and Petrus, he's had his name in history as well. Like he's a pretty well-known figure in the age of exploration. So like him and this Petrus guy, they co-authored an atlas that became really popular because people were exploring the Mediterranean Sea left and right. And Barentsz was, he was considered a very competent sailor, a gifted explorer by his government and many of his peers in Europe. So once Barentsz established his reputation, or his respectable reputation, he turned his sights to figuring out the Northeast Passage. And from a geopolitical perspective, since his homeland of the Netherlands was pretty much as north as Europe gets, other than like Norway and Finland and stuff like that, but we're talking like main body Europe, he could establish trade. If he could establish trade with the Orient by sailing north, he could help put his country's reputation of being a major economic hub, because everyone would want to sail through Netherlands waters, and they can charge for that. They can, like, hey, if you're passing through, you have to pay a fee and all that kind of stuff. And it would make it easier on them to get to and from. Barentsz was the perfect guy to explore the Arctic regions because of his map-making skills and his ability to lead men through pretty much anything. He was just like a natural leader. He also had a really intelligent theory that I thought, like, I can't fault his logic on it. He had an idea of how big Earth was, as most map makers would have had an idea that, hey, we don't know the exact mileage, like down to Google Earth stats, but we know that it's going to take, 6,000-7,000 miles to get to Asia and all that kind of stuff. Like they had an idea of that, but he also knew where Europe sat on the globe in relation to Asia. And because of this, he knew that the further north you go, a degree between longitudes, those are your vertical lines, consumes less miles than, say, a degree of longitude near the equator. So if you look at those longitude lines, those north-south lines, and we'll have pictures in the show notes and on the website, but you'll see like how at the equator, you looked at the longitude lines, the major ones, and they're pretty far apart, but the further north you go, closer you get to the pole, you see like all those lines kind of converge into like one spot. And if you're going, say, 5 degrees longitude up at the North Pole, that's going to go a lot further. You're going to cover, say, those 5 degrees or 3 degrees or whatever. You're going to cover those degrees quicker up in the North Pole than you would if you're sailing on the equator, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's the reason why we don't really use miles, because miles behave differently the further north or south you go in relation to the equator. So they use a thing called nautical miles, which is more like a curved, it's a distance over a curve, which Earth being a sphere, sorry, flat earthers, Earth is a sphere, then you're calculating a arc.
Mm-hmm.
And then to measure that, they would use a speed called knots. And what they would basically do is they have this really long rope, and then they would tie knots in this rope at very specific increments. And then at every so many markers or every so many minutes, they would chime a bell, and then you would drop a part of this rope over. And then you would time how long it would take for you to drop the next one over. And you would do that throughout the course of the day. And by the end of the day, you know how many knots you've traveled. You can add that up over, say, like 8 hours, and you're like, cool, we're traveling so many knots per hour. That's where that term comes from. How to measure distances on a sailing ship is vastly different than how you do it on land, which people don't think about. But for the sake of argument, we will just use miles. I'm not going to confuse people with nautical miles and knots and all that kind of stuff. So going through the north in his mind is like, when you're on a sailing ship, you're like, okay, we got to go so many degrees this way, and then so many degrees that way. And then we got an angle to go 45 degrees at, this, at this specific island. And you live and breathe degrees. So if you go to a part where the degrees are closer together, it would make sense that you could cover more distance or more degrees when the lines are super close to each other up in like the North or the South Pole. He had that idea, and he also knew that the further north you go, the winters, or parts of the year, the North Pole has 24-hour sunlight. Which is true. Like, you go up into like northern parts of Alaska, like the sun never sets.
Yeah, I think they have like a crazy 6 month schedule or something.
Yeah, it works like the same way in Antarctica. There's 6 months out of the year where it's dark.
Yeah.
And then there's 6 months out of the year where it is sunlight. Like, the sun never really sits. It just kind of goes in a weird circle throughout the sky. So he argued I can see his logic here. It makes a lot of sense. He's like, okay, if we go north and the sun is shining 24/7, because the sun is shining, there should be no ice.
Right. Because in his mind, it's going to melt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sound way of thinking. Obviously we know like that's not the case. That's not how it works. It has more to do with the angle of the sun and how that affects the climate and whatnot. But I can totally see where he's coming from.
Yeah, especially if you're living in the late 1500s. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you're taking these super ghetto sailing ships, which were very top heavy, and they did not handle storms well. Let's just say. I think at this time, there were more ships sunk in the Age of Exploration just because these boats were so top heavy and they're really short, squat. Like, they were just dumb. Like, you look at them, they look really comical. They look like something you'd see out of a cartoon.
Remember John? Remember how he got stuck in Roanoke and then went back?
Yeah.
And then went back again. And then his ship crashed when he got home. Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't the most reliable, especially when you compare it to, say, like 1820s Britain, like those sailing ships, those things were, well, I mean, that were the pinnacle of sailing technology at that time. And yeah, they're still around to this day. And those things are just gorgeous pieces of engineering. Meanwhile, these age-old exploration ships, they were like 2 decks. And you try to pack as much crap in there as possible and hope you didn't hit bad weather.
Yeah.
Which is kind of one of the reasons why Barentsz wanted to go through the north, is because, like, okay, one, nobody's really been there yet. Like, believe it or not, nobody has really traveled to the poles yet. Like, Antarctica wasn't even a thing until the 1820s.
Yeah.
Like, and even still, it was like, oh, I see some weird white landmass off the distance. That's got to be Antarctica. Cool. So we found a new land. Sure. Okay, let's go to put a flag on it and go back to what we were doing before. And nobody really cared. The same thing applied to the North Pole. Like, nobody really investigated it until like the 18 and 1900s, which, you know, that's a whole different story unto itself. We have a 2-parter on the Terra Nova expedition in Antarctica about that. We'll link to it in the show notes. Isn't it nice that we finally got enough episodes where we can start linking other previous episodes in the current episode that we're talking about?
Oh, yeah. It's a joy.
Yeah, like we can actually, hey, listen to these 4 other podcast episodes that we've done that's kind of tied into this. It's a nice feeling to be big enough where we can actually reference ourselves as a source. Like, it's pretty cool.
It's true.
And we don't, and we like shamelessly cite ourselves whenever we get to do that. Like, check out our show. We did an episode on this, did an episode on that. But yeah, so like the idea of going through the poles, it's like, you know, the weather can't be that bad, right? It's just cold, maybe a little windy, but hey, there should be no ice up there. There should be no icebergs, or shouldn't be anything that we would crash into or freeze us in place, because hey, the sun is always shining. And as long as we time it correctly, we shouldn't have a problem. So with a little bit of government funding, a little bit of fundraising, and some other money collection, Barentsz was set to hire a few ships and head north by northeast to see what he can find and hopefully find what is needed to get to Asia. So Barentsz is kind of putting his cartographer days behind him. He's like, okay, I can do this. I can find the Northeast Passage, and it will revolutionize all of Europe and my hometown if I can make it work. There were 3 voyages, and they were like one right after another. So there's like 1594, and then 1595, and then 1596, and then the last one ending in 1597. So like this guy never took any time off. On June 5th, 1594, Barentsz set out with 3 ships from the island of Texel, which is in northern Netherlands, and it's almost like a little mini island that is attached, but yet not attached to the mainland. It's weird because if it's like a low tide, it's attached. If it's a high tide, it's like an island, and it changes weekly.
Got it.
Ireland has little mini islands that are like that, where you can only access them during low tide, and then when it's high tide, you're stuck there until it's low tide again. Which, I don't know, I feel like that would actually be kind of nice. It's like,
that sounds fun.
Yeah, like I'm stuck on this beautiful island for 3 weeks until it's low tide again, and nobody can get to me. Like, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I could dig that for a little bit.
It's kind of cool.
He had 3 ships, and they would kind of set off in 3 different directions. I want to say 3 different directions. They were going to take like 3 different approaches to going through the Arctic. And the idea was that the 3 ships would meet up in, you'll like this, Kara, the Kara Sea.
Yay.
Yes, they
I have a place in the world.
They knew you were coming in 2025, and they're like, we've got to support this girl.
Oh, that was kind. They didn't have to do that.
Actually,
I don't deserve it.
It was 1992. So they knew you were coming in 1992.
That's when I was born.
So what is that? About 400 years prior?
Got it.
In commemoration for your future birth, they're going to name a sea after you.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It turns out that the Kara Sea is like the bane of Barentz's life. Like,
yay.
This was a very elusive body of water that thwarted him and a lot of other people. And it sits like the Kara Sea sits like north of Russia's like Siberia area. And then to the west of it, there's like a weirdly shaped island. It's like a crescent shaped island called Novaya Zemlya. I feel like that's like a singer's name. Like, oh, did I butcher it or?
Oh, I could see that. I also just want to commend you for trying to pronounce these.
I'm trying to use what little foreign language skills that I have.
No, it sounds fine. I would butcher it if I tried it.
Yeah, I think they would pronounce it Novaya Zemlya or Zemlya because that Y is following a consonant, whereas the Novaya, the Y is following another vowel. I could actually look it up in Google pronunciations.
Got it.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not afraid to try.
We could.
All right, let's do it here.
I just wanted to commend you for trying.
I can even change it to slow.
Respect.
Oh, okay. So it is Novaya Zemlya. So I was right the second time. It has to do with the following a consonant. So yeah.
Okay.
You've got the Novaya Zemlya. It's a vertical shaped island that kind of is the boundary between the rest of the Arctic Ocean and like Siberia. And the idea was to have these three ships kind of meet up there and then proceed. And the ship that Barentsz was on was called the Mercury, which I don't know. That seems kind of ominous because what is Mercury, the god of war? Yeah. I thought that was Mars.
You're probably right.
Mercury, known for.
My Roman mythology is not as clear as my Greek mythology.
Messenger. Yep, so messenger of the gods and guiding souls to the underworld.
Also the god of commerce and travel. Okay, that's fitting.
Mercury is a Roman god of commerce, eloquence, travelers, communication, messengers, and trickery. Wow.
He sounds fun.
He sounds busy.
That too.
He's like the Roman version of Loki in a way, but I just like how it's funny. Is like Mercury guides souls to the underworld. Yeah. And I'm on a boat.
Yeah.
Let's name the Mercury.
On a boat.
But yeah, it was considered a very small ship, even by then times. It was 70 meters long or 230 feet. Yeah, it's shorter, significantly shorter than a football field. And you see pictures of it. I'm sorry, but these ships just look so comical. They're very squat. Mm-hmm. They're strictly designed to haul goods. They're not designed for any comfort whatsoever. Yeah, they were hilarious. They're too utilitarian. Whereas when we get into 17th and 1800s, they become very elegant, over-engineered, a lot of technology. They actually had rooms in them and all that kind of stuff. But man, back then they were just like, can this thing even float? Let alone
it could float to carry goods, but that's it.
Yep. They're designed to carry a lot of gold, and even still, they were too top heavy. So a lot of Spanish ships sank coming out of the New World because they were loaded too much with gold. One thing to keep in mind is that this part of the world was not explored. So when you look at that waters above Finland and Norway, and Svalbard, this was not really looked into all that much. People just didn't really think anything of it. The Americas technically had more exploration done to it by now than the waters north of Europe and Russia, which I found that was kind of interesting. There was more people doing stuff in America than people trying to see what's north of them.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's like playing Zelda and skipping an entire part of the map, and you're just trying to beat the game by going left and right, but you never go north or like super far south. It's kind of weird. I'm thinking of the very first Zelda where like you can beat the game in a way if you play it right, where you don't have to spend time in the northeast part of the map. But I digress. Maybe these people tried. I'm thinking of like maybe the Vikings, right? And I feel like the Vikings did a lot that they don't get credit for. Like,
yes, they did.
Actually discovering America and
Greenland. And
Yep. My guess is they probably went up there and they're like, this place sucks. And
probably
like, we're out. Like, and then nobody followed them. So for the first month of the first expedition, the crew followed the coastline of Norway. And then it wrapped around to the east side where Russia had carved out a chunk of land next to modern day Finland. So like Finland is sandwiched between a Russian province and Norway. Along the way, they stopped at some of the 1 to 2 billion little islands that seem to dot the coastline of Norway. And if you zoom in on Google Maps and you look at Norway, like if you look at these early maps, it's hilarious because they have like the coastline of Norway and then like what you think are actually city names is one right after another listed in the land. No, those are the names of the individual little islands that are like 20 miles here, 10 miles there, a mile. Like it's just nothing but islands. And I have no idea how they kept track of what's what. I imagine there's like a lot of flags. Like, okay, I see a French flag. I see a British flag. I see a Russian flag. I don't see a Norwegian flag. All right, boom. All right, I know that's one of ours now. Because that's how the world was conquered back then, was the cunning use of flags, if you're an Eddie Izzard fan. They somehow managed to avoid all the scary monsters, all the angry mermaids and krakens that lurked in the waters based on the maps that were drawn back then. Like, Barentz's crew is doing pretty good. They're not even being killed off by supernatural creatures.
Hey, we're making progress.
Yeah.
It's great.
And better yet, they didn't even fall off the edge of the earth.
Woo!
They stayed on Earth.
Killing
That's
it.
right, you flat earthers. They stayed on the planet because the planet is round. So first month, really nothing much happened. They found a few animals. They cataloged some stuff. They just did explore people things.
Yeah.
On July 9th, things got a little spicy when there was the incident with the polar bear.
Oh, good.
Yep. And it was the first polar bear ever discovered.
Okay.
And there was an incident with some men and the polar bear.
Okay.
So I have no idea where Williams Island is. I tried to find it. I did a Google search for Williams Island and it comes up as like a bar and restaurant in Florida.
Sick.
Especially like Bear Creek. So apparently, while Barentsz was parked at Williams Island near Bear Creek, I'm assuming it's somewhere around the Netherlands. It's in between Novaya and Finland. Right? It's somewhere in between there.
Yeah.
They were just chilling there. Somebody forgot to pull the ramp in, because this is back when there was like one ramp and that's how you got on and off the boat. Somebody forgot to pull the ramp in and they woke up to a polar bear that was trying to board their ship. And
it's looking for food.
Yes. And they're like, what is this thing? And whenever you come across a new species, the proper European thing to do is kill it.
Yes.
They grabbed their muskets, which, sorry, 1500s, they sucked. They spent a long time trying to shoot this bear. They tried poking it with things. They tried stabbing it with things. Maybe 1 or 2 bullets actually hit it because their guns were so inaccurate. But they're like, crap, we can't kill this thing. It turns out that an 8-foot bear that weighs over 1,000 pounds is pretty hard to kill. Especially when you looked at the high carbon metals that they had like in their guns and in their spears and everything. Like, you would try to hit the bear with one of your iron pokey things and the blade would just shatter in the cold.
Oh, yeah.
After a while, they gave up trying to kill the bear and they're like, hey, what if we bring it on board, we tie it up, and then we bring it home with us? So
that is the most manly man idea. Okay, we can't kill it, so we're going to keep it.
Yeah. So that's what they did. They proceeded to tie the bear up. And again, 8-foot tall, 1,000 plus pound bear broke free of the restraints and went on a rampage while they were at sea.
Good for bear.
So now I'm just visioning this little exploring ship, and you have like dozens of men like screaming and yelling as the boat's like rocking side to side as like this bear is just like whipping people out into the water or like biting them, like this pure chaos of them trying to control this gigantic polar bear.
God, that's amazing.
And so, yeah, they're after hours of fighting this bear, they managed to push it overboard, and they vowed never to deal with polar bears again because those things suck.
Yeah, man, they're vicious. That's hilarious.
Barentsz and the crew, what was left of them, or most of them, discovered Orange Island because I guess Orange is the new island name. And I could not find it anywhere on Google Earth. Like I said, there's literally thousands of islands in this part of the world. And again, I'm not sure how they could tell if this island was new or not, but maybe because Barentsz was like one of the first ones out there. Okay, we can ascertain that this is probably a new island. Kind of like how if you look at a map of the moon, you'll notice that the side that faces Earth has like Greek and Roman and European names for like the craters and the mountains and all that stuff. But if you look at the far side of the moon, the side that doesn't face Earth, they're all Russian names. And that's because Russia was the first to get a probe behind the moon to take a picture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, if you see it first, you get to name it. So that's, yeah, one side is all European names. The other side is all Russian names, which I find it kind of funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
While hanging out on Orange Island, the crew came across about 200 walruses. Alien species.
Great.
They're like, wow, okay. These are cool.
They're also very dangerous.
Yes, as they find out. So,
okay.
The natural course of action when you come across a new species of animal is you try and kill it. And the idea was to kill as many of these things as possible and then bring home the tusks because, you know, they could be used for something. So they declared war on these 200 walruses and they got their butts kicked.
Oh, man.
They discovered that walruses are very, very hard to kill. Bullets didn't work well too much on them. And again, they tried going out there with clubs and spears and pikes and other iron pokey devices. And like they would stab this blob of fat and like the blade would break off. And the walrus wouldn't even care. Like,
that's sick.
So when it was all said and done, they got a couple of them killed and they were only able to get like a couple pairs of tusks back on the ship. And once they left Orange Island, they're like, okay, we're going to leave this whole ivory trade thing for Europeans when they get into Africa later on in European history. I don't know how they drew that conclusion at that time, but let's just say they did. And they're like, yeah, leave it for somebody else. This was dumb. And right before the winter of 1594, Barentsz made landfall on the west coast of Novaya Zemlya, which...
That's that crescent-shaped island situation.
Yes, and there'll be maps on the daysdumpsafire.com to try to point that out. Like what it would look like. It's really the only big island up there, so you can't miss it, other than Svalbard, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. Right before the winter, they made landfall there, and it's a very long crescent-shaped island, so Barentsz is like, okay, well, let's head north. Let's see how big this thing is. And they finally kind of get to the top of it, and that's when they discover that, oh crap, the Kara Sea was starting to ice over. Their ship, they knew they couldn't handle that. If they got their ship stuck in ice, they were done for. They would be stuck there until it thawed, if it ever thawed. And they're like, well, let's go home. And that's
I can't blame them.
Yeah, they just saw it. They saw these chunks of ice forming, and they're like, we're out.
I mean, honestly, after the polar bear and the walruses, I'd be like, I'm out too. I'm done.
Well, I'm envisioning like Monty Python, like little skits where they're like little cartoon characters to come out with all their European weapons, and then they get in a tussle with these polar bear or a polar bear, and they're like, retreat, 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 trying to get away from it. And then they see like a whole bunch of walruses, and they got all their spears, and they go marching out, and then a tussle with the walruses, and they're like, retreat, retreat, retreat.
Right? Oh, that's great.
They got the dude with the coconuts, like. So, all things considered, that mission was considered a success, right? They mapped a lot of stuff. They discovered a lot of stuff. They brought some stuff back. And this really helped the second voyage. And the second voyage was put together by Prince Maurice of Orange. I guess the moral of the story is that, hey, if you want to get funding for another trip, name an island after the guy that you're trying to get money from to fund another voyage.
Smart.
And this Maurice guy, he was very business oriented. He had like two brothers that were into trading and stuff like that. And he looked at how far Barentsz got on the first journey. And he's like, we had to have been close to Asia. Like, looking how far, and he kind of had an idea of how big Earth was. He's like, man, we had to have been like within a week's of travel of Asia. Little did he know, or anybody knew, that even if they got past Novaya Zemlya, there was still like another 12,000 miles to go.
Yeah.
hence that part of like the futility of this goal. Like they had no idea. Like they were kind of just wasting their time doing this. But what they don't know will hurt them. So Maurice of Orange, he's like, okay, Mr. Barentsz, I want you to take 6 ships now. And because Maurice is like, man, we were so close before. I think this next time Barentsz can get all the way there. And then what we can do is we get there and we have 6 ships full of cargo that Europeans don't want or need, but Asians could love. Take that, sell all that stuff, or trade it for really, really, really expensive goods that Europeans do want, right? And then bring all that back to the Netherlands. We sell it, offsets the cost of this expedition, and we've established a trade route with Asia that nobody else has. It's kind of a sound strategy. It's
it's good business sense if you don't count the thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of land.
Yeah, that you would have to sail around. Yeah, I can totally see where this guy is coming from. He sent out Barentsz to basically do the same exact thing, but this time actually make contact with Asia. And the issue, the thing to think in here is that Barentsz had only just barely scratched the surface of Novaya Zemlya, let alone do much sailing in the Kara Sea. I think they're maybe getting a little ahead of themselves, but hey, Barentsz is like, hey, you want to fund this thing? You want to give me 6 ships? Let's go. And on June 2nd, 1595, Barentsz set out with 6 ships, with the main goal of getting to Novaya Zemlya in a more timely manner. So instead of like stopping and exploring every little quarter-mile wide island off of like Norway, they were just going to we're just going to head straight there. Let's get there sooner and beat the weather. So that's what they did. They this time they just kind of made a beeline for it. And since the expedition was intended to make money, the stakes were higher. So there's a thing in maritime law to think about at this time. Let's say you're a captain of a merchant ship, right?
Okay.
You find somebody who wants to sell their goods in Asia. So you, as the captain, you have one or two options. You can buy all the stuff from the merchant, right? So you'll be like, hey, I'll pay you for all this stuff. I will go and sell it. And then you as a captain, you have full right to sell to whoever you want for whatever you want. It's up to you. Or you can take possession of the cargo and sell it on the seller's terms. So like the captain is kind of like the mediator. Sell all that stuff. The captain gets his cut and he brings back the money or the traded goods for the original seller and like collect a commission off of it. So either way, you're taking responsibility for a lot of money of goods.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. And if the ship sinks and you come home, not only you have to pay for the ship, but you also have to pay for the lost cargo. So there's a lot on the line here for Barentsz to like make it work. And yeah, that it's just tricky because suddenly he can't just do all the exploring things that he wanted to do. Now this is strictly a business trip. In August, so they made it to Novaya Zemlya in pretty fast time. Like they made it there in August instead of like October. And instead of sailing to the north to scout a path around it, Barentsz is like, okay, we're going to go through the south. And hopefully we can find a strait or something that goes through it. And that's what they did. They found Vygotch Island. So Novaya comes down to a crescent, and then there's like a 30, 40 mile wide gap. I think it's more than that. I think it's like 100 miles, but there's a gap between the southern tip of Novaya and the Vygotch Island. And that's like part of Russia, part of modern day Russia. And while they were passing through this, they came across the Samoyed wild men. And I don't know to what extent these people were wild, but it was no different than Europeans calling Native Americans savages.
Yeah.
And these people were old. Like they have been there going all the way back to like the Roman Empire. Like these were Europeans that had like a breakaway civilization and they made it to this island and then history forgot about them. Like if you look at it now, there's like a little town there of like 12 houses.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very quaint. And the Samoyed people are kind of they're almost like a race. Like you can have Africans, you can have Asians, you can have, Caucasians. The Samoyeds are kind of like the Russian form of Native Americans.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they were considered wild men. And Barentsz was like, oh, that's neat. Like, let's go talk to a branch of humanity we've never met before.
Yeah.
And somehow he had a guy that could actually talk to them, which...
What? That's a trip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, somehow he had a dude that can actually talk to the Samoyed people in their native language.
Huh. That's handy.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, like, out of the group, you're like, I don't know how to communicate with these people. And then you've got, like, Phil in the back. He's like, I got you. Like, okay, where did you learn how to speak a language from a group of people that we had no idea even existed? Oh, I knew a guy. It's a long story. Oh, okay. Well, go talk to them. So
yeah, how about it?
That's what they did. And so they talked to him for a little bit, and really nothing too crazy happened. But while they were talking to the Samoyed people, on September 4th, a small party sent out to States Island. No idea where that's at. I'm assuming it's somewhere near Vaigash, but sure. And the reason why they wanted to go there is because they spotted some weird looking crystals there, and they wanted to bring some back. Because
I understand that.
Yeah, because all men are hillbillies to an extent where they have a thing for shiny things. Like, ooh, shiny rocks.
I was thinking about like when you play Breath of the Wild or like Skyrim or something. You want to collect all the things.
Oh yeah,
that you see. That's what I chalk it up to, but that works too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that. They're like pieces of sky that have fallen down.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I'm sure they were preparing a trip to go to Sedona, Arizona, and they needed crystals to represent at the Vortex Convention or whatever it is.
Their fourth chakra.
Something.
They need to clear it.
They're trying to open their third eye or with healing crystals and whatnot. So
yeah.
Needless to say, they got there and they're trying to find these crystals, and instead the party got attacked by another polar bear.
Oh.
And it kicked their asses all over again. This time, 2 guys died, and the rest of them just ran away. So,
wow, that's unfortunate.
It's like the what was it? Was it the second or the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie where it kind of starts off with Jack Sparrow like running away from like these cannibals?
Yeah,
that's what I had in mind here. Except for this time, it's a polar bear that's chasing him.
Yeah.
Just,
that's accurate.
So they packed up, they got back on their boat, they said bye to the wild men, and they headed to the Carasea. Upon getting to the Carasea, they hit a little snag. This was the path that was going to get them to the Asian mainland. It really wouldn't work, even if they did make it through. But they noticed that the entire Carasea was 100% frozen over.
Oh, good.
Like, they could walk on the Carasea.
I'm sure that was disappointing.
Yeah, so there's like, well, now what? What do we do? Like,
yeah, like the fish at the end of Finding Nemo.
Right? Yeah.
We did it. Now what?
Yeah, they're like, they're in the bags. So like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Go home.
Yep.
So,
I mean,
yep.
You lost 2 guys due to polar bear. Go home.
Yep. And this mission was considered a failure. Because of the 6 boats of goods that needed to be sold in order for this to be financially worthwhile.
Yeah, I could see that.
So they turn back. God, crap. So they get back, and the Dutch government in 1596 is like, okay, we are no longer going to fund these expeditions because, like, they're going nowhere, and they're getting very costly, and they keep ending in failure. So the recent failure was atrociously expensive because all the goods in those 6 ships had to be returned with not much of a market to sell them in.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to buy this crap. So it was kind of like a wash. As a result, the Dutch government was like, okay, we're not going to pay for these types of expeditions anymore, but instead we'll put forward a reward system. Anyone who can find a way to the Northeast Passage or get through that to connect with Asia will receive a huge reward. This puts the cost of exploration on privateers and donors/investors. So other people in society will absorb the cost with the hope that if they make it, then they're going to get a huge bonus from their government.
Yeah.
Right? Or tax break or something. And shockingly, Barentz's reputation did not take too much of a beating.
That's good.
Yeah, like while the last voyage was a failure, it wasn't his fault that God decided to freeze the Carasea in the beginning of winter.
Fair.
It's not like he could have predicted it. So The town council of Amsterdam purchased and outfitted 2 small ships to be captained by, I think it's Jan Reep.
Okay.
Because I think the J is it's like a Y sound. It's Reep. And Jacob van Heemskerk.
Nice.
Yep. Anybody by the name of Jacob, or it'd be Jacob van Heemskerk. And both of these 2 guys would be under the command of Barentsz. So this guy just has a knack for like getting out of trouble. like you had a failure of a mission.
Like, man.
Yeah, no, it's just like, yeah, I know you failed here, but here's more money. Go for it. So on May 10th or 15th, history's a little vague on this. The 2 ships sailed out, and instead of heading northeast by east, instead of following like the coastline along like Russia and Siberia and all that kind of stuff, they went due north. And the idea was that we're just going to cut straight through the Arctic Circle and pop out in Asia, which
okay.
Yeah, instead of like following the coastline all the way around, they're just like, we're just make a beeline straight north until we start heading south. So now they'd be on the other side of Earth heading south, and they're just cut out all the crap to the east. So
got it.
So that's what they did. They went north, and on June 9th, so a little less than a month later, they discover Bear Island, which
nice.
You could probably guess why it was named Bear Island.
So, okay.
The names get better. Trust me. They're this so literal about the naming conventions. It's hilarious.
I love it.
I don't think they spent much time there, given Barentz's proclivity to get crew members involved with polar bears, but they like charted it, made a note of it, and moved on. This island sits midway in between Norway and Svalbard. So it's like
the halfway. I found it.
Okay. Yeah, that one actually shows up on Google Maps.
Yeah, this one comes up.
About a week later, on June 17th, they discovered Spitsbergen, which is like the western part of Svalbard.
Found that one too.
Cool. And then they're like, well, this is cool. Like, let's explore the place. And so they basically go on a cruise around the island. And that's kind of like how cartography works, is you follow the coastline all the way around, and then you're dropping knots in the water, measuring how fast you're going. That's how you figure out your distance. And it's a kind of a really complicated process to make these maps, but that's what they did, is they went all the way around this island. And so, on the 20th, they found a large natural bay, which would later be called Raudjorden.
Okay.
Which I think translates into natural bay.
Nice. Like it.
Yes.
There's a lot of those in the world. But
I know. Yeah, it's very original. Yeah. They found the only one, apparently. On the 25th, they sailed into Magdalena Fjorden, which they called Tusk Bay because of the walrus tusks that they found there.
Right.
So they stopped and picked up a bunch of those because they sold very well when the first set came back.
Nice.
On the 26th, they sailed into Forlandsundet. But had to turn back because of the nasty waters there. Like, there's all these shoals and everything. And that literally, they named it like place of nasty waters, don't go.
Love it.
So
might as well make the name useful.
As opposed to like Cape of Good Hope.
Yeah. That's misleading.
Yeah, that's very misleading. This is not misleading at all. On the 28th, they rounded the northern point of Svalbard called Prins Karls Forland.
Okay.
When I first saw it, I thought it was Prins Karl's foreskin. Which,
oh no,
that would have been an epic name.
That would have been epic, but unfortunate.
Yes, especially if you have a house there, like you're a lighthouse on the foreskin of Svalbard. So, and they basically called it the place of many birds, because they got there
because there's many birds,
thousands of birds everywhere.
All right.
So
okay.
Yep. I told you the names are just very original.
Yeah, but I can get behind it. They're very straightforward, honest.
Well, and they kind of give future explorers an idea of what's going on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as opposed to like Bob's Island. Okay, cool. It's an island full of dyslexic people, and they're all named Bob because you can't misspell Bob backwards.
Oh, no.
So, and then they proceeded to sail down the east side, making their way down south. They took more pit stops, continue mapping the island as we know it today, which is the reason why like everything is named Barentsz everywhere. It's just because they really, this is like the only time when Nathaniel's talking about Svalbard, this is like the only time in the story that Svalbard comes up. And on July 1st, they made their way back to Bear Island.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, what are we going to do now? A fight broke out on one side. Captain Rijp, RIJP. He's like, I want to keep going north, and I just want to cut through the Arctic Circle and just get to the other side of the world that way. Let's stop screwing around. Let's just go for it. Meanwhile, Barentsz and Van Heemskerk, they wanted to head east and try their luck going around Novaya Zemlya.
Okay.
Their plan was taking into consideration that if they hurry, they'll get there by like mid-July, which should be months ahead of the weather, right? So instead of even getting there in August, we're going to get there even earlier. And there's no way that this could possibly go wrong.
Okay. Famous
last words.
Yeah.
So ultimately, no concessions could be made between the two groups. So Rijp went north and Barentsz Heemskerk would go east. None of these leaders would ever see each other ever again.
That's kind of sad.
Yes. But they did cross paths later on in a weird way. And I'll get there. By July 17th, Barentsz had reached Novaya Zemlya, which was good because they had beaten that winter freeze that seemed to happen much earlier here than other parts of the world. Remember, Barentsz was marketing finding a Northeast Passage because there's 24/7 sun and it never freezes. And
it shouldn't be frozen.
Yeah, twice now they've gotten there and it's frozen.
Yeah. You would think that he dropped maybe he just feels like he needs to keep going.
Well, I think what it was is like, if we can get there in summer,
yeah,
where there is all that sunlight, it would still work.
Okay.
As opposed to getting there when it's starting to like turn into fall.
Got it.
But keep in mind, when you're that far north, every day of summer is fall. Like it's just cold. Like the ground up there is permanently frozen. as we will discover here. Barentsz decided to try his hand at going through the gap between Novaya Zemlya and Vygotch, or the Vygotch Strait.
Okay.
However, they never made it to the strait because the ship got stuck in ice flow, which was compressing their ship because of icebergs that all came about during an unexpected freeze.
At this point, I really just want them to succeed. And I know that they're not going to. And it's sad.
Well, and the story here gets really interesting because this now becomes a story of perseverance. And what these guys go through is a mixture of like pure genius and just a crap ton of fortitude. Like I really have to give these guys credit for what happened next. So the 16-man crew was unable to break the ice. They tried lighting fires to melt the ice, but this ice had probably been frozen for hundreds of years, and there's no way that was going to melt anytime soon.
Yeah.
So they quickly they were getting pinched in. So what they did is they got to the coast of Novaya Zemlya, like as close as they could. And then before the ice completely locked them in, this way they could actually get to land.
Okay.
They got to land, but there was no like usable land. Everything was frozen over, and that's that permafrost. Like parts of Alaska has never defrosted.
Yeah.
It's just the ground will always be frozen until the planet heats up and then it melts, which there's actually making a lot of discoveries. Like because of global warming, they're finding places in like Northern Europe where they're the bog bodies. The water has thawed out, and then like these bodies have been unearthed because of this. So the silver lining to the planet turning into a toaster oven, I suppose. They made their way to land, and the only thing they found was like this icy, barren shelf, and they had to set up camp there, and it was just rock hard ice. So what they did is they took wood from the ship as well as whatever driftwood they could find, and they built a cabin. This thing was 25 feet long and 18 feet wide.
That's not bad considering they didn't have much to build it with.
Yeah, like that's the size of a good size house.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's pretty impressive. And they named the cabin or like a little mini fort. And it had a roof, had fireplaces. Like they did a bang up job on this. They named the cabin Het Behouden.
What does that mean?
Oh, it's Het Behouden Highs, or the saved house.
Sick. At this point, I just appreciate it.
Yeah,
that's great.
And now we got 16 dudes trying to survive.
Yeah.
Life in the lodge wasn't like a resort, but it was survivable during the height of the winter months. So they've been there. They got stuck in like July, August, and they stayed there all the way through the winter. So when it was like January time, the height of the winter, and it was just consistently like 40 degrees below zero all the time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was a death sentence to the point where like their socks would catch on fire before any warmth from the fire would make their way to their feet.
Just because they had their feet in the fire trying to get warm?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was so cold that their socks, the outsides of their socks would catch fire before the warmth would get through the ice of the socks and get to their skin.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's bloody cold. And
yeah, that's very cold.
They cut down the sails of the ship to make more clothing as well as blankets and whatnot. And so that was one of the ways they were able to survive. The other thing they would do too is they would take rocks and cannonballs, throw them into the fire. So they got cranking hot. And then when it was time to go to bed, they would pull the cannonballs out. And then they would kind of like wrap themselves around the cannonball as like a radiator, like radiating heat.
Mm-hmm.
So they would sleep with cannonballs and rocks pulled out of a fire, which that's a pretty clever idea. Because I imagine those cannonballs could hold heat for quite some time.
Yeah, it's pretty smart.
At first, they had access to salted beef, butter, cheese, bread, barley, peas, beans, groats. I don't know what that is, but flour, oil, vinegar, mustard, salt, beer, wine, brandy, hardtack, smoked bacon, ham, and fish. So they were pretty well stocked, and they did a very good job rationing things out. Like, it's not like they had like a week of feasts and then they were just out of food.
Yeah.
No, they actually rationed it out very intelligently. And they had issues with the casks of beer. It would freeze and then explode. So for those of us who know trucking and beer customers, we know that beer does not like to freeze.
No, it does not. It's like the same thing. If you put a soda can in the freezer to cool it down and you forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it just ruptures. But the thing with beer is that it actually has a much lower freezing temperature because of the alcohol. So when it does freeze, watch out.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
It's worse. So the ship's carpenter, Garrett DeVere, this is the only reason why we know what happened on the third expedition here is because of this guy's journal. He reported by November 8th, the beer and bread were running out and wine was being rationed. Believe it or not, beer and bread when you're in Arctic-like conditions, those are lifesavers because beer contains a ton of sugar and the carbohydrates and everything that makes you fat from drinking beer keeps you alive in a situation like this. Not to mention you never have to complain about the beer being warm. That's always cold.
True. Silver linings.
Yep. The silver bullet never ends there. Or the silver train or whatever that beer phrase is. I don't know. And then like bread, same thing, full of carbs, full of sugars. Those are things that your body needs to keep itself warm. So they were starting to run low, but they were still able to keep going for the most part. And on January 1597, the crew became the first to witness what is known as the Novaya Zemlya effect. And it's a really rare effect that happens usually on the oceans, and where you see the sun set right before the top part of that sun goes below the horizon, you'll see like a green flash of light. And it's very rare. It's considered to be a good luck thing to like maritime folks. Like it can only happen in very, very, very specific settings. Like some people have reported of seeing it off of the coast of California, watching the sunset, and they'll see like a green, it almost looks like a little laser beam above the sun. And it's just how the light is refracting through Earth's atmosphere. And there's not a lot of green light that comes from the sun, but the way that it interacts with the atmosphere, it makes like this little green bar above it for like a couple of seconds, and then it goes away.
That's neat.
Yeah. So yeah. They got to see something like that.
That's cool.
For more food, the crew got pretty good at hunting Arctic foxes. So they came up with like very primitive traps. And it turns out that the raw meat from Arctic foxes, as well as a lot of other Arctic animals, has high levels of vitamin C. And which is good because that prevents scurvy.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a plus.
Yep.
Look at us go.
Yeah, I know. They're like making all sorts of discoveries and all sorts of stuff for I don't think they knew what caused scurvy back then, and they certainly didn't know what vitamin C was, but they probably noticed. And at that time, like every sailor had a bout of scurvy, like and you could always tell that they're very bow-legged.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the tibia and fibia behave more like rubber, and then they warp and cause knee problems and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like who knew?
Yeah.
Yes, their crew were continuously harassed by polar bears. They just couldn't get away from these things, man. They were just like everywhere up there. This is where the story gets a little funny. When the weather started to warm up again, so they went all through the winter, and then they're getting into the spring, and they're like, hey, it's starting to warm up. Like we're seeing the sun more. There may be a chance that we can get to our ship and get the heck out of here. However, when they got back to their ship after being away for months, it turns out that all the polar bears in the area watched House Hunters International, and they found that there was this wooden cabin that was shaped like a giant boat that was empty and free for the taking. So when they returned to their ship, they discovered that it was filled with dozens of polar bears just lounging about.
How mad would you be?
Oh, I would have lost it.
Right?
Like you saw the kind of damage that one did, let alone like 48 of them. They were like in the cabin. They were in like the eating area. They were in the captain's cabin. Like they were laying on the deck. Like there was
hanging out.
Yeah, just all these polar bears, and they're just kind of looking at the crew like, what are you gonna do? So,
man.
Yep, they had to battle all these polar bears, and that's exactly what happened. For a little bit, there was a little war that started, but again, bullets weren't working, weapons were just shattering, and they had to give up. They're like, okay, screw this. Fine. Just take the boat, you stupid bears. Just whatever. They did manage to take the two dinghies.
Okay.
So they were able to steal those back. And that's what they did. They loaded these dinghies up with as much food as they possibly could. These were meant to be like boats that could hold like 10 people that they would send off to an island, like a scouting thing. So they were bigger, but they were uncovered. So yeah, they took both of those boats, they loaded it up with what they could, and then they set out to sea as they watched their beloved ship with all these polar bears on it, just kind of giving them the middle finger bear wave goodbye. Just,
oh man.
Yeah, just, yeah.
It's infuriating.
That's why
funny. It's so funny.
I know. And I named this The Revenge of the Polar Bears. It's like they were pissed off because of the one that died by their hand by being thrown overboard. By June 20th, 1597, it was evident that Novaya Zemlya and the polar bears were not going to release their ship as it was still stuck on the ice and loaded with bears. So they hopped into these dinghies and, they rowed out to sea. And then sadly, on June 20th, I actually had here by June 20th, 1597. That was actually, I think it was like June 13th that they just headed out. And then like a week later, Willem Barentsz died at sea.
Oh.
Yep. There was no information on how he died. They don't know if he was buried at sea or on land. Like maybe they brought him back to Novaya Zemlya to bury him. Like they couldn't ascertain that. Maybe he died because he knew that when he would get back home, the amount of debt that he was going to have from these failed attempts was going to be like he's going to spend the rest of his life in debtor's prison trying to pay this off. I don't think that's what would have happened, but it's just he just up and died. So that
the polar bears got him.
Right? Yeah. In fact, if it was me, I would if I was going to be the one that was going to die, I'd be like, okay, use my body, drag it out to the polar bears on that boat, and use my body to lure them off, and then sneak aboard, pull the ramp in, and get the heck out of there. But
yeah,
the problem is that I don't even think that boat could have even sailed anywhere because they cut the sails down to make clothing.
Oh, that's right.
So, like,
it would have been pointless anyway.
Get there? Yeah, it's like you took away for the current to pull you out. So the remaining crew, and I believe there was 12 of them at this point out of the 16. So I was thinking like there were hundreds of people, and I was thinking that like 90 out of the 100 died because they've been on this thing since going on almost a year now. Because they got there in July of 96, and they didn't leave until like June of 97, and they were at sea, and all like there were 16 of them total plus Barentsz, and there was 12 of them left. So 4 of them died in total during this whole year and a half long escapade. That's impressive, I think.
Yeah, considering the conditions, how long they were out there, how they were living, rationing food and living off of fox meat.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, they in terms of dumpster fires, they did pretty good. So yeah, you're right. It's unfortunate, but they made it work. And this is the crappy part too. It's like they were at sea for 7 weeks until they landed on the Kola Peninsula. So if you look at that Norway, Finland, Russia sandwich, that the Kola Peninsula is on the Russian side of it, and it kind of juts out. And to the west you have Norway, in the middle you have Finland, and then you've got this Russian province, and that is where they were discovered by the Dutch. Only 12 men survived, with 4 dying at sea or in Novaya Zemlya, or thereabouts. Like, they don't know exactly when 84 people died. They do know that the cabin boy, he died on the island. Like, he got sick and died. So they knew about him, but the other ones, they weren't too sure. The guy who found them was none other than Captain and former explorer Jan Reep. So he's back.
He's back, and he's ready to rip.
Reep. Well, and like I said, like these leaders would never see each other again. That's kind of true.
Yeah.
The leaders never would see each other again, but that Yan guy met like his old crew. And what it was is he had already made the trip and came back, and he was heading out on his second trip when he discovered that Barentz's men were on this peninsula.
Okay.
And so, yeah, by November 1st, the remaining crew were returned to Amsterdam. And there, the journal from that carpenter was later published along the accounts of Huygen van Linschoten, who was a famous archivist, explorer, even spy. He did a lot of work in like India and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, he was on the first two.
Okay.
So he kind of like just hopped aboard as part of the crew for the first two. That's why we know about them, is because of this Van, I don't know how to pronounce it, Linschoten. He too has a lot of stories. It's kind of interesting to read his works, but yeah, he wrote about the first two, and then we have the carpenter that wrote about the third one. That's the only reason why we know anything about it. And yeah, they published their books in 1593. The Mermayan Sea was now changed to the Barents Sea, and a number of whaling vessels were also rebuilt and christened with the name of Willem Barentsz. So there was even in the 60s, I think there was another like explorer ship, like a diesel powered steel ship that they rechristened as the Willem Barentsz. And by 1873, a university was built for maritime investigation named like the Willem Barentsz School of Marine whatever. So like everything in that whole Svalbard area, everything was being named after Barentsz. And if you do look around there, like you look up any towns and stuff like that, there's like Barentsz Road, there's Barentsz City Hall. It's like, yeah, this is the most famous guy that Svalbard can lay claim to, I guess. And I actually wouldn't mind seeing this. In 1931, a play was written about the third voyage, but it was never performed.
That would be a good topic for a play.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been up there with like, what is it? Morgenstern Guildenstein. It's like a take on Hamlet, where it's like the two main guards in Hamlet, they have their play where they don't realize that they're dead, but they're in Hamlet, and like they're like they play parts in and out of the play and all that kind of fun stuff. It's a more modern play, but it's just all it is. It's just these two guys, and that's all it is. And I think this play about the third expedition, I would actually watch or read a play.
I would too,
like that.
That'd be interesting.
And so, yeah, that is the story of trying to get to Asia using that northeastern passage and Willem Barentsz.
Yeah.
And so now I got to ask the question again, like, have you ever tried so hard to achieve something where you're willing to sacrifice so much only to later find out that the original task was virtually impossible or impractical?
Yeah.
Like,
so in art school, and I was like 18, so don't judge me, but I had a brilliant idea. I was charged with making a dress or like a piece of clothing or something. And for those of you who know me, I really hate sewing. So I had the brilliant idea of trying to make some sort of piece of clothing with duct tape. And then I tried to sew it together. I got so frustrated and upset. I just went a different direction. So yes, not on the scale of this, but I could feel it.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good example. And I've done this too in the past, where when I was like a manager working in retail, like I would take on these projects and I would invest myself so much into like reworking this wall or setting up an end cap or trying to finish this product move. And I would pour myself into it one, not realizing I didn't have the foresight to see, like, this is stupid. Like, you're just wasting your time, Ed. Right. And I've done it in education where I think a lot of teachers do this, where they spend all this time planning out this mega unit only to find out that the standards change at the last minute and the whole thing is scrapped. Like, and then when you go back and look at it, you're like, there was no way this plan was going to work to begin with. And it's one of those things, like in your personal lives, like, even if you're listening to this and you're 12 years old, you can look back at your life, like say when you were like 7 and you're like, there was no way that was going to work. But when you're 7, you have no idea.
You're like, I'm going to make this Hot Wheels track go to the other side of the world.
Right. Yep. And then when you find out they only have like 6 feet of track,
yeah.
You're like, oh, no, okay. Well, I know my place in the world.
On to the next thing.
Well, and I think it's a very important dumpster fire to have in your life, because I think that's the thing that gives you hindsight. Like, we see this with our students, right? We'll see a student want to try this project, like this art thing. You and I both know, like, there is no way this is going to end up well. Like, your art project's going to fall apart. It's going to collapse under its own weight. You're going to get clay everywhere, or wet clay everywhere. You're going to get covered in paint, and the final product is going to look like crap. You and I know that, but yet we also kind of let them do it.
Yep.
Because yes, it's going to turn into a dumpster fire and they're going to feel bad about it, but at least you're not stranding your men on an island for a year surrounded by polar bears.
Yeah. The difficulty level is different.
Well, and the cost is very different. For us, it's, like $20, $30 in paint and supplies. And we know, like, at the end of the day, the thing that the kids are going to create is not going to end up in the Louvre. It's not going to be this masterpiece. It's going to look like a mixture of a mug, a plate, a bowl, or an ashtray. Like, and what they were trying to make is a bird. It's like we know that this isn't going to end well, but then when they discover that little dumpster fire on their own, that's where you start building that hindsight that you only get by going through stuff like this. Like, for example, could you imagine if Barentsz survived this and he made his way back and he kind of put it together, like there was no way this was going to work? Or better yet, if he lived long enough to find out that even if he did get through the Kara-Sea, there was still like another 8,000 to 10,000 miles to go.
Yeah.
He is now in a position to go to other upcoming explorers and be like, guys, don't waste your time. Try this instead.
Right.
And then what you don't realize is that's how you actually move humanity along, is by understanding, to have the wherewithal and know, like, I've been here. It's not going to work. Try this, rather than people trying the same dumb thing over and over and over again. All of Europe would have sunk themselves trying to get through that Kara-Sea in the 16th century, and nothing would have come about other than, well, now we have these explorers that went out there and they're like, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah.
But then it also causes a dilemma too, where you've got people that are like, well, I want to prove the naysayers wrong.
Right.
And that's a tough one, right? Especially if you're young, you want to prove the adults wrong, that you can do this. And who knows, maybe you pull it off. Maybe the technology, maybe the time is right. Maybe you do make it succeed, because now there's ships that go all over up there, but those are like nuclear powered. They can be out for years at a time. They can break sheets of ice. So it's going to happen. But hey, if it doesn't happen to you, it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. You're going to be okay.
That's where hindsight comes from. So that's kind of the message that I got from it. Like, kind of like, now you know that you cannot use duct tape to make an article of clothing.
Facts.
So yeah, that's our story. I'm sticking to it. Nathaniel, that was a really good suggestion. So if you have an idea out there of future topics, send us your ideas to thedaysdumpsterfire@gmail.com. Visit our website, thedaysdumpsterfire.com. You can see our show notes. You can see Kara's artwork there. You can hit us up on Instagram. We have a presence on there now. We are working on, I know recently you put a poll on there for our listeners to figure out if they could guess what your upcoming episode is going to be. If you're hearing this, by now you already know it's on Roanoke.
Yeah.
So you put like a really weird, vague picture on there of this drawing of a sailing ship. I'm like, like I even knew what the episode was going to be about, and I couldn't even guess.
It was a Spanish sailing ship.
But I thought Roanoke was a British.
Yes, but the Spanish Armada's in the story.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I was planning on posting more as we went, but I haven't gotten a lot of feedback on it yet, so I was just going to wait.
But yeah, no, like, please feel free to give us feedback. We love any and all feedback. The nice thing about not being like the Joe Rogan experience big is that we're actually capable of responding to most people. So yeah, if you want to hear from us, if you want to give us ideas that, especially constructive ones, don't say crazy things like, I like everything about the show except for the hosts. Cool. Why are you listening? But no, if you have ideas out there, please don't hesitate to hit us up. Do me a favor, tell your friends and family about this. I've been studying up on podcast marketing. It turns out that the fastest way to grow a podcast is through word of mouth. So if you are getting something from this, if you're getting educated, if you're laughing, if you're entertained, if you're crying, I hope there's not too much of that going on. But if you are getting something from the show, spread the word on it. Chances are, if you're benefiting from it, somebody else will. And we want to build a community of dumpster firemen.
We'll workshop that.
Yeah. Dumpster divers.
That's better.
Yeah, we're getting there. I want to come up with like a dumpster army type of thing.
Okay. Yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll workshop it. We'll come back.
Yeah. It may be a poll on Instagram.
We'll figure it out.
So yeah, go ahead, tell people about us, reach out to everybody, grab their phones, grab their computers, get them onto our website, and get them signed up. This is a great episode if you are a student studying history, whether in college or in high school or junior high or elementary school, and you want further ideas, or if we cover an idea that could play a part in whatever research you're doing, perfect show for it. So if you know people that are equally interested in history and how things can go horribly wrong and how we can benefit from all that, whether at a global level, at a personal level, yeah, put it out there. Get us signed up. So that's all I got. Did you have anything you wanted to add on?
Just to tag along on that, don't forget to rate or review the podcast on wherever you're listening to it, because that does help too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, any and all reviews. I do know iTunes said that reviews doesn't help the algorithm at all to get spotted, but that's just iTunes. Leaving a review just it helps us at the bare minimum.
Yeah,
it
just
helps
some
us,
stars.
Yeah, it helps us to figure out what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. On a podcast that's all about doing things wrong, we do try to get it right. Leave a review. And I guess until next time, keep it a hot mess.
Bye.